Today's session is going to be very interesting, I'm sure. We see so many movies and theatrical plays around us, and we are awestruck by the locations and costumes and jewelry and styling. Little do we know that the hard work involved behind. So I don't think I should speak much about it. We have our guest for today, Miss Roshini Dinaker, who is Indian costume designer and filmmaker, who has worked in Kannada, Tamil, and Telugu films industries as designer, and her directorial debut with the Malayalam film My Story was in 2018. I think she started her career as film in the industry as costume designer in South Indian languages. She's also won Karnataka State Film Award as Best Costume Designer. So I think the introduction would be too long. I should pass on the screen to Roshni to take this over. Looking forward for this session, Roshni.
Thank you, Shweta. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone on the panel. Vijay Kumar sir and Sumukha and everybody. Thank you so much. And all the dear students and faculty and enthusiasts in fashion, welcome to the show. I hope it will be rewarding today, spending your 1 hour with me. So thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Roshni,
yeah. So as we mentioned, I was talking to Shweta regarding this thing. I hate when I talk alone, and I have to make this. I really love it to be a very interactive thing. I love it when people ask me things and I will be able to, satisfy their curiosity. So as and when we are talking, I request all the students and viewers who are there to keep on sending questions. That would be helpful for me to, because I don't see you. I don't get to see, and I don't see whether the way I'm talking or it's conveying to you, or whether it is interesting, or whether, the reason for you being here is satisfied. I really don't know. But if I have to know, I really request you to just please send me questions. That would be motivating for me. Please do that. And thanks for being here once again. So, Shweta, let's start with this.
Yeah,
sir?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, now today's topic, as we mentioned, it's about fashion designing versus costume designing. I mean, I don't know, it's debatable versus, but then when we thought about this thing, the topic, the tagline of this, it was very, what I realized when in this whole course of journey in my career, that is from, I would say, from 2001 till to date, is even with me, I was not sure what is the real difference between fashion designing and costume designing. I know there were a lot of students. It's nothing to be ashamed about that you don't know. At least, understanding that I don't know is a bigger thing. Most of them don't even realize they don't know what is the difference. So here the difference, what I would say, it remains the same. It remains the same. The basic thing remains the same. The construction remains the same. But the understanding of the requirement differs. So here what happens is, like in fashion design, you are actually designing to an individual, or again, in fashion designing there are various ways where you place yourself. One, if you are a designer for an individual person, like if you're designing for one particular wedding or one particular person, so it's about that person. So you will have to be involved in understanding what that person likes, what his body type is, the silhouette, what might look good on him. So it is the entire concentration comes into one person. Okay. And in case you're looking at designing for a line, maybe a fretwear, you are thinking about what would a general crowd want. What would be an easier selling option, where which doesn't have too much detailing, may not have it should cater to everybody's liking. So it should be something like that. So the fashion is among these two things generally. And when it comes to costumes, we are not designing for a person, we are designing for the character. So, that is a major difference. The character, when you meet the character, it is only on the paper. So it's only on the paper. It's the description written, either by the director or by the writer. It's something vaguely in their imagination, and it's your duty to actually bring it in real. So how do we bring it? So the whole question lies in now, okay, fashion, what all you do in fashion, I think lots of designers are talking about this when it comes to fashion designing. Like, you either start it right from understanding what kind of fabric you want, then get into designing the kind of silhouettes you want, and then you get into the construction, then you get into the actual garment construction, and then you get into the final packaging and marketing of this. So this is one thing what you do when it comes to fashion. Now, when it comes to costumes, there are a hell a lot of people whom you have to interact with, and everybody has got their inputs, which should reflect on your garments. So everybody is very creative here. So now, like from a writer's imagination is what begins the character. The beginning point of a character is from a writer's imagination. That thing comes to the writer because he is constantly observing society. So the basic thing what we need to understand is cinema is actually a reflection of society. Whatever is there, it's not something vaguely created or nothing like that. It's about real lives, real people. And most of the time, the writers are inspired from real lives and real characters. So constantly, the writer is watching people, talking to people, interacting with people, from where he derives his characters. So what happens? That becomes a basic line even for a costume designer. That is, if you want to recreate a beggar, okay, we are going to recreate a beggar. We cannot create a new fashion for him. We have to cater to the visuals what people have already seen. That is, people would have seen a beggar on the street. How are you going to recreate that beggar? For that, you need to observe. The first thing would be connected to your society, connected to your nature, so that you can recreate it. Most of the time in cinema, it is recreation, whether it is even the fashion that comes out, these are like possibilities. A fashion today, we're talking about there are two kinds, one is a period drama where you're recreating history, or else there is the contemporary styles. Sometimes styles comes out from cinema. A lot of people follow cinema and those designs become like, a trend for some time. So there are two types again. So again, it comes out because of the characters. Today, if I am the character of the film, like let's see, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, and we talk about Kajal. And Kajal is more doing like, she's a boyish kind of a girl and a tomboy, and the kind of clothes. According to her character, what is that she might want to wear? And somebody who's an enthusiast in basketball, and these are the things. So her character is what we have to style her like. It may not be total designing. I wouldn't say you have to construct the entire garment. No, it could be styling also. A costume designer ends up doing multiple tasks when it comes to cinema. She can be, the designer could be a stylist. You can also assemble, you can create, you can design. So it depends on the requirement of that particular film. So now, Sumuka, I think let's play on the video of Nita Lula, who's one of the finest designers and acclaimed costume designers here. She's got something to say about it. I think that gives a little more input into this.
Is it audible?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Costume designing is a completely different field from fashion design, and most importantly, in costume designing, visual appearance and the apparent illusions of various aspects of clothing, structuring, and silhouettes is very important. I think for costume designing, a designer needs to know a lot of technicalities of the clothes that are worn and in the way they are worn. Scripts, understanding of scripts, understanding of color schemes, understanding of silhouettes which work with different figure types and with different skin types is most important, and the ability to work with various technicians who are creatives in their own field and have a point of view that needs to be amalgamated within the creative aspect of your work. The fundamentals of designing costumes for period film are a lot of complete intensive research post understanding your script, understanding the era, understanding the culture, understanding the place and its surroundings, and a lot of historical background that would help you to kind of design the garments with a different kind of a touch. Also, to be able to understand that when we're doing films which have a period background, the costumes can look genuine, but then today, when films are released, it is an audience that's very young and contemporary. The character should be able to be appreciated by the audiences of today who want to see films with a magnanimous background, with a magnanimous feel and look to it, and yet they should be able to relate to its costumes. Therefore, walking the thin line between contemporary and period is very important as a costume designer and for costume design.
Yeah, I hope this was informative because she's one of the finest designers today who's on the, who's created, and we've seen a lot of their works. So as she mentioned, that it's a fine line between contemporary and period. That especially when she's talking about period dramas. So costume is not, now let me talk about the progression of from where we begin, like, right from the narration. Like if I'm a designer, I've been called by the director or the scriptwriter to narrate the script to me. So we begin with understanding the story. That is a verbal narration is first given to us on entire how the stories are going, and this is a story and this is a period. And see, the period does not mean it is like, this is like 1600 or 1700. It's not like that. A period could be, see, in my directorial debut, my story, we spoke about a period that was early 90s. That is also period. Okay, so the style was a little different than today. How are you going to? And for me in that film, it was more of a non-linear presentation. That scene to scene, it used to change from present and past. So what happened is for me to show a completely, there's a huge difference that I needed to show there, so that people don't confuse what is it that I'm trying to, show, and show the differences. So in costumes in this 20 years, there wasn't much a difference, but still there was a difference, and that had to be worked out with regard to colors and usage of plates and checks and all this. The lead character, I had given them, a lot of plain colors and solid colors when it was in the present day, and on the past, I used a lot of plates and checks. That is what the major difference I gave, and with regard to denins and with regard to the kind of pants which is used today, these were the differences what I had shown in my film. So when we're talking about period, in I told you, it is not just about a period drama as such, where we're talking about kings and queens. It is also the period like Mahatma Gandhi. So if you watch the film it is Gandhi by Bhanuvataya, you will see the nuances, the very small detailing, and no wonder she won a Oscar for that film. And she was one of the first person who has inspired me to become a costume designer when I just was in the dilemma, what should I do? So I once happened to hear her talk, and I was easily drawn to this entire magic of costume design. So now when we listen, now going back to how we listen to the script. So once a story is narrated to me, then we talk about scenes in detail. They tell me the first scene is like this, the second scene is like this, third scene is like this, and we talk about the scene in detail. They give me a written script where the description of each character is given. So for instances, let us say, I was working on this film called let me talk about this film Kallarali Huvagi, which was directed by one of the finest directors today, T.S. Nagabinna. And we started talking about each character. There was Hyder Ali in the film, there was Madhuri Naika in the film, there was his wife, Onike Ogawa was there. There were a lot of characters in the film. And to understand each character, there is a definite description in the history. There is a definite, this person reacted like this person behaved like this person was like this. So definite description is there for us. Okay, that is there in the history because we're doing a period drama. Now today, if we talk about contemporary characters, like I was doing a film called Charulata, where we are talking about, Priyamani, she played Siamese twins in the film. So there was a different way, though they were Siamese twins, both of their characters were totally different. One of the Siamese, though their bodies are attached, their minds were completely different. One person was like too boyish and too, very aggressive kind. The other one was very mild and very sober kind of a thing. So though they are wearing the same kind of costumes, how am I going to show the differences in character, though they are stuck together like this? All the time they are stuck together. So this was always a thing, So understanding the character, understanding how that person might believe, and being in their shoes to understand what kind of clothes they would love to wear. So this is basically this. I think this comes in when you interact a lot with public, when you understand characters and keenly look into how, a small thing, maybe a body language of a person, and somebody's talking. There might be a small things like, you might have seen characters which scratches there all the time. This comes, that characters involved, or maybe there is a person who would love to wear a shawl or a stole all the time. This all comes in from the behavior patterns of that particular character, and costumes actually helps them, to interpret the character, to visually convince the audience. So it's all about an illusion that is being created on screen. And for that illusion, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of things that happens. There are a lot of last minute changes that happens. There is no hard and fast rule. End of the day, how is it going to look into that 100 mm screen? That is all that matters there. To achieve that, there might be 100 circles that you might be doing background. So this is about, how we start from, narration point to, understanding the character. Then comes your work when you read your script. When we read our script, we will have our own visualization depending on, that is the signature part of you as a designer. So these are all the inputs that has been given from others. And when you start reading the script, you will have your visuals, you will have your imagination. That is where your importance, the designer's importance, come into, need, when you are understanding and your visualization. And from there, you start designing or probably sketching, or, right from their hair to your mustache to the costume. There are a lot of things, So this actually, we sketch it that way because even to the wig maker or the entire getup, it actually supports, So I try doing that. It's debatable. It's not necessary that a costume designer has to look into the wig, and no, it's not needed. But then I do that because when I submit my costumes, the entire look of it with the hair and with the mustache and with everything I give them. If they don't want, they could change it. But then this is my take on this particular thing is, that's how I submit my sketches. So we work on the sketches. Once the sketches has been approved, we work on the textiles and the fabrics depending on the body type of the actor. Like not every actor is like, fit, and not every actor has got a perfect body. But what happens on screen, it's possible to create an illusion, illusion of, there are flaws, but those flaws can be covered to make it look more perfect and more acceptable. So those kind of things comes in. It depends on the silhouette you choose, the fabric you choose, and everything. Then once the sketches are made, you will have to sit with the other departments. That is the production design. That is the art design. You will have to sit with the cinematographer, because he's the one who decides on the colors, because there will be light and the colors react to each light in a very different way. So we'll have to sit with the cinematographer, we'll have to sit with the art director, we'll have to sit with the actor, because his comfort level also is very important, because he's the one who's wearing it and he's the one who has to perform there. And the basic thing, if they're not confident about what they're wearing, it really shows on their faces. So that is another very important aspect that we need to keep in mind. And then we finally get into the garment construction. When we get into the garment construction, we initially talk about fabrics, and how that in that particular scene, whether, see, if you, there are certain, like, let me talk about films examples. Like there was this movie called Tal. There was this particular song in the Tal Se Tal Mila. This was a huge symphony. They were actually showing the agony of that woman. though it was a whole grandeur thing, but there was this agony which was also, see what happens is costumes is one of the factor which interprets the character in a certain way to give out that emotion what the director wants the audience to feel. It's one of the characters. So like if you say, oh, that costume in that scene was like really outstanding, actually it's a very bad compliment, because nothing should be outstanding than the scene itself. It should blend. It should blend along with, the background. It should blend along with the cinematography. It should blend along with the character. If it's standing separate, then it's a flaw of a costume designer. Now, I wouldn't take it as a compliment though. But that's not how it is to be made. It has to go along with everything. It's the entire synchronization, and that is when the audience emote. And now, this costume designer's job doesn't end only on celluloid. That's not only in cinema. There are various other places where designers are needed. That is, there is place. There are a lot of plays that's happening. Each character's just the procedure of developing costumes for each remains the same, like how we do it for the cinema. We have plays, and we have theaters, we have opera houses. There are a lot of places where, other than the celluloid, this costume designers are required, and each one has got its own way of gauging and deriving at the particular final costume design. So, Sumukha, let's play that video about the opera house thing.
Yes.
My name is Mel Barton. I'm head of the costume work at the Opera House. I think the costume is a very, very important element of a production because it really does help to set the scene. It really does help to tell the story. The costume interprets the role in many ways. It describes the character by fabric, by shape, by period, and generally enhances the story and helps to tell the story. When you get to be creating your own costume, you really need to begin with research. You need to find out as much as you possibly can about your character, about the story, the inspiration. You need to think about fabrics, how you're going to tell that story, how you're going to interpret that costume. You need to think about your character's role within that story. You need to think about what they need to do on stage. You need to think about the period that you're going to set it in. You'll need to research the history of the construction of that period. So really, as much research as you can do is going to help you create a beautiful costume. When you begin your work on your costume, you'll be given a brief. The brief will be partly the costume design. It'll be partly describing the fabrics. It will be partly talking about the character. So I think the first thing to look at is probably the design and the shape. Then you think about the character, how he's going to tell that story. Then you think about the fabrics that might work for that shape, but also for the character himself. If it's a very delicate piece and a very delicate story, then you're looking at lightweight fabrics, fabrics that will float. If it's a very powerful piece, a very strong story, then you're looking at heavy fabrics, leathers and plastics. Again, fabrics and ideas that are going to help tell that story. The designer creates a two-dimensional drawing, and it's the costume cutter, costume maker that turns those two dimensions into three. They'll work with designer to see how that shape is going to evolve. They'll need to know where they're going to put their seam lines. They'll need to know the history or the period of the costume in order to do that. Sometimes you may compromise on some of the period detail in order to create the shape or to give the character the movement you need to. But these things have to be worked out with the costume maker and the cutter and the designer working together. You also, of course, need to talk to the person that's going to wear it, because they're going to have to do what they need to do in the costume that you're creating. If you're interested in a career in costume design or costume making, I think your first project really is to source a good course. There are many courses in costume interpretation, costume making in and around London and the UK. I think then it would be a really good idea to start to get involved in theatre, in work placements, applying to the various repertory theatres to see if you can get a placement for a week or two. It's also quite good if you can get a part-time in a local rep theatre or in a London West End theatre. You can do a dressing job or you can work front of house. I think it's really going to help you to get involved with the environment and start to feel if it's right for you.
Yeah, okay, we're back. So now, why I showed this video is because if you listen to what she spoke and what Ms. Nita Lula spoke, it's almost the same, whether it is the cinema or whether it is the, whether it is the theaters. The basic understanding of characters and getting them on a real thing, depending on the requirement of that particular play or a cinema. So this is the basic understanding, the ground, ground. Sorry, it's the basic requirement or the ground quality that a designer should always have is understanding of the requirement of that particular play or the script. So this I showed because this is where you can actually see that it all sounds very different, but the underline is the same. It's the same for every, whether it is cinema, the medium only changes. But in theaters, what happens is there is no retakes. There is no scope for, once it's gone, it's on the stage, it's done. So in cinema, at least you have a privilege of having retake, something went wrong. You can always do a retake on it, but here, no. So on theater, another thing what we need to see is like what is the body movements, what the actors will be doing, if there is some kind of an acrobatic thing, the kind of fabric that you might be using, maybe it's a four-way stretch or something, and it is a free-flowing dance, like a contemporary dance in between the theater, then maybe you need a free-flowing fabrics, which is, so understanding of fabrics, the characteristic of the fabric, how the fabric is going to react to light, fabric is going to react to, there will be a lot of fans around to create that illusion of, that free spirit kind of a thing. So, understanding of fabric is very important when you bring it on the, on the silhouette, and understanding the body type of the actor who's going to play it, so that, we don't want the actor to look ugly or with a bad thing. Badly constructed garment can make the actor look bad, even though he's good. Anybody can be made to look bad or good, depending on, you can see there are certain characters, if you see now Gulabo Sitabo, that is going to come, the movie that is going to come with Ayushmann Khurrana and Amit Ji. Look at Amit Ji's costume in that. Look at Amit Ji in, certain other films. You are able to make a person make or break, or, bring in the character depending on the entire styling. So this is one major thing what we'll be talking. Now let's get into the recreating history in cinema. So which is which is actually a very challenging job and very interesting job for a costume designer, recreating cinema, that is period dramas. And I've been fortunate. Now this is my second cinema with period I'm working, and the first was Kallarle Huagi with the same period, 1600, and Madhukari Nayaka, the same king and the same period again. So, how am I going to look different in both the cinema? How am I going to make the characters look different? It's actually challenging for me. So let's start about films, what we've already seen and appreciated and liked. Let's talk about Padmavat. So if you see Padmavat, we're talking about the research that probably would have gone into would be how, the entire styling would be, because she was a Rajput queen. So it would have been about the period in that area, in that region, how the women used to dress up, how they used to style themselves, the jewelry used, their mannerisms. Everything comes into it, like, the usage of dupattas and how they used to cover their faces. And, since these were all warrior queens, they knew how to get in the war also. All these kept in mind, they would have derived. So once you do the illustration, so Sumuga, can you just go into that Padmavat's photograph, the sketch to the costume? Not this. Not this, the other one.
The first one, Shrimukh.
First one, please.
Yeah, this one.
Okay. Yeah. So now if you just look into this picture, this was the illustration of, when the illustration was made, this was the illustration that was made for that particular song, and this is the final outfit. So look at the detailing. So this is how deeply the detailing goes when you are actually making an outfit wear, because there are a lot of people, things cannot be changed at the last minute. See, there will be backgrounds of the similar colors. We will be having, when we design the costume, they will give us they will give us, the background colors used and the basic idea of the background designs, that is the set designs, for us to understand, and, we'll have to work it. And we should actually, complement it. So they would give us, look at the detail of this photograph. We can actually see, in the in-depth detailing that has gone into it, and the best thing would be to achieve the detailing on the real garment. What happens most of the time, we design, we sketch everything, and we fail to achieve it on the final garment. And that is very disappointing, because the directors and everybody will be thinking, okay, this is the kind of garment that is going to come in. But when you finally come in for a trial, it will be completely different. So stick on to the basic design, stick on to, we should have a conviction to bring the garment most closely to the design what we have presented. So there are a couple of colleges where I had been as a judge to certain events, and one thing I saw in most of the students are their designs are completely different from when they submitted the designs, is completely different from the garment which is being presented. And I used to always think, why is this so? Why are the students not able to get that final thing, whatever they have visualized? Why are they not getting into it? So if you want to get into that final thing, I think you need to go into the market, find out where to source them, and that I think is lacking somewhere. I don't know. Maybe it is debatable again. I'm not too sure, but somewhere I've seen this. Most of the time, this happens that we design something, and when we get the garment out, it is nowhere close to the design what we have given. And the entire crew, whether it is the art director, whether it is the cameraman, whether it is the actor, everybody is under the impression, okay, we are going to get them something what we already showed. And it will be very disappointing if we don't, We end up doing something like that, not accepted. So, then again, there is a clash, you need to give it. So the best thing would be, once you derive at a design, to stick on to that and get the outfit closely, the closest to what you have designed. So that is something that we need to keep in mind. And again, when we come to from where do we derive the designs? Okay? So Muga, can we go into the first photograph where you showed the black and white painting and the photograph and
Yes.
Yeah. So now if you look into this one, this is an actual photograph of a Rajput queen. Okay. So there were different, look at the detailing. If you can zoom in, you can see the detailing, the kind of, the weaving that's used there, the kind of borders, and the kind of jewelry, what she's been wearing. And, so from this particular photograph, this kind of thing is being derived. It's not necessary we have to copy the same things. These are kind of, we can call it inspire. So, copying is not, it's not appreciated though. So we can get inspiration from these kind of, paintings. And mostly what happens is, most of the pictures what we find in those periods are black and white. So now how do we derive with the colors? Now, how do we know there are certain colors? So now what happens is like, what are the kind of dyes that was used at the time? Then we need to get into that research, what were the colors existing at the time? And since it is kings and queens, maybe they get all these exquisite things, which is even expensive, maybe some Persia and, all these places. So those dyes are there. But it's not only the kings and it's not only the kings and queens that is there. We also design for the general crowd. There will be general public there. There will be villagers there. There will be market space where other people also have space. It's not just the main characters. You are dealing with every character in the film. Since we're doing a period film, there's nothing you can buy on a ready-made or something. Everything has to be constructed. Like if you see that film, Hrithik Roshan's. Shweta, can you remember that film? Hrithik
Jodha Akbar?
Roshan's.
Jodha
Huh?
Akbar? Jodha Akbar.
Not Jodha Akbar. It was
Okay.
that Indus Valley Civilization.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah. Forgot the name.
Yeah, I just not
What was
able
it?
to. Mohenjo-daro. Yeah,
Mohenjo-daro.
somebody
Correct.
messaged.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Niranjana, thank you so much, Suprita.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mohenjo-daro. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. See, if you look at Mohenjo-daro, there is no much detailing. You know, we don't have too much detailing on the kind of costumes we used to have or the fabrics or something, because the entire society was like washed out. Still, there are certain things which depicts, why I mentioned this Mohenjo-daro is where the main lead is playing not a king or something, he's playing a commoner. So the kind of fabrics they use and the interpretations they use there, the kind of textures they use, depending on what might be the weave at that time, what might be the dyes available at that time, what might be the colors, which is, the simple things, the simple dyeing, what would, they make in their houses. Based on that, we derive at this particular, thing. So we are not only designing for the main leads, which might be a king or a queen or something. We are also designing to all the people surrounding them. So we need to in-depth understand the lifestyle of that period, the colors available at that period, the dyes that could have been used at that period, and easily accessible things at that period. And exceptions could be like, like neon colors. It's today, you can't have it something at that time there. So understanding of what could be there at the time, what could be the source of these dyes, everything should be, the whole in-depth knowledge of, that period, that era. And also the actors who are playing, like what Nikalula mentioned. So we are creating this costumes, but the audience who are going to watch is very contemporary. They are today. So it is a very fine line between contemporary and period. You should make costumes which is appealing for even today's people, because they are the ones who are watching the film. You're not making it to the people then. So this is also a very important thing. Striking a balance between the contemporary and the period. Sometimes the silhouette, or sometimes the patterns may not be applicable for today. So there you actually give in a blend, or maybe a illusion which might look like then, but actually you're using the same patterns what you use today. So all these things, for that you need to have a real detail. You have to do your research. There is no other way. You have to do your research, get into it, and end of the day in cinema, once done, it's done, and it is there forever. Anybody can go relook at it and comment on it at any point of time. So there's only one chance for you to either do it. So when you do it, you have to do it. There's no second question about it. So this is one thing. So now let us talk about the project what I am doing right now. Okay, that project is called as Rajavira Madhukari Nayaka, which is the cast is Darshan in Kannada. There's an actor called Darshan here, one of the superstars and one of the finest human beings too. Darshan, and there is a whole lot of cast, more than 57 characters which I need to design, and there are wars, like 6 wars we're talking about. And we're talking about, the cultures. Like we have Wadayas, we're talking about Wadayas, we're talking about Marathas, we're talking about Hyder Ali, we're talking about Chitradurga Madhukari Nayaka. So these are the major 5-6 people whom we are talking about. And these are the major differences. Like, we're talking about an Islamic king. We're talking about Marathas, which is a complete different, styling. If you look at the Marathas costumes, the soldiers' costumes, like if you see in this film, Ajay Devgan's film, which is just released now. Tanaji, yes.
Yeah.
Tanaji, if you look at it, you get the detailed description of how the Marathas used to look. Whether it is the sari Kajol is wearing, that is basically Inkal saris from Karnataka itself. Most of the saris were, and there's a huge, influence of, there is an exchange of, tradition in these two, because it's the border, the North Karnataka and Maharashtra, it's the border. So, you know, there is what she's wearing, basically it is Inkal saris from our Hubli Dharwad, you know. And, you know, the styling that's used even by Ajay Devgan is completely, you can just make out the difference. There's no grandeur because he's just a Subedar in the film. And what a Subedar looks like has to look like a Subedar. There's no way, because he's the main character, make him look like a king. No way. It doesn't happen that way. So that's a failure from a designer if something like that happens. So now we are doing in Madhukar Naika. Madhukar Naika, he's a king. He's actually a Nayaka. And we are talking about right from the visuals go from Pallava's period. You know. From that period, we just talk about it briefly and how we derived at it, and how we. See, I'm not able to. I'm not in a freedom to talk too much about this because you know it's not yet come. But still, I would love to talk about you know, show us certain things from where I derived my designs. So, Sumogha, can we go into the pictures of that period photographs?
Yeah, it's there already. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are like photographs from my. So just hold on, don't swipe it too fast.
Yeah, yeah. Hold in one picture.
Yeah. So you know. Okay. Can we go? Yeah. See, now we are talking about you know. Look at the photographs. If you can slowly. Can we go into the next one, please? Yeah, so these are the places. See, if you look at the colors, see, these are the paintings actually what is available during that time. So if you look at the women's outfits, you know, and you look at the colors, the color combinations. Can you see? I mean,
Yes, yes.
Yes.
okay. So the color combinations and, you know, if you look at, see the you can even actually feel the fall of the fabrics. What is there? Can we go into the next picture, please? Yeah, these are black and whites, but if you zoom in, you can see the detailing, you know, the embroidery that is made. Okay, go into the next picture. See, now here in this picture, if you zoom in, you can see the kind of soldiers, the costume what the soldiers are wearing. See, there are different types of soldiers here. Since we are talking about, since like I mentioned, it's not only the king or the queen. You're also designing for the soldiers. You're saying soldiers again. There are soldiers which you know there is you know, soldiers that is infantry. There are soldiers that goes on horses, that is cavalry. Then there are soldiers who actually are all like bodyguards of the kings. So different types of costume depending on their what do you say, their positions. So if you look at it, like the turbans are different, the shoes are different. You know, you can get a lot of detailing from this kind of pictures. And this is the main places. You know, this is where I go physically and go check it out, like, you know, Mysore Palace and Srirangpatna and all these places to get the real, you know. Can we go, these are the, some more pictures are there? Yeah. See, now if you look at the color combinations here, you know. See the navy blue, you know, the purplish blue kind, you know, you can see there. And the embroidery, the jewelry, and the turban, the fabric used in the turban. You have so much detailing. And this is where we need to recreate, you know, these kind of things. And we should also look, you know, we should also look that period as well as cater to the taste of today's audience. So this is from where I am actually deriving. See, this about the Mysore Vadiyas, the kind of jewelry they used, recreating those jewelry, and you know, everything. You know, can we, Sumogha, can we go into the jewelry? What the photographs of the jewelry, please? Yeah. See, now if you look at it, so this jewelry, these are like, you know, at that same period. Now this particular pieces I have used to recreate jewelry for the people in the Tipu Sultan, Hyder Ali's side, the kind of color combinations, the kind of, the stones used. We can use all these things on the turbans and also on embroidery, for embroidery, recreating certain patterns like on your biceps and all these things. Can we go for the more pictures, please? Yeah. Next one. Yeah, this is this is actually this pattern. Basically, the Nizams of Hyderabad use a lot. But then since it was the contemporary period, we could actually use it in Hyder Ali also, which we can bring in something new. We don't know for sure, what did they actually use, but with the reference, what they have and what is already there with certain paintings, we can actually recreate. But in and around that period, there were other references also given to us, and which is available, through which we actually bring in these kind of things, So there comes a designer's observation and understanding of what you can use and what you cannot use. Okay, any more pictures, Sumukha?
No jewelries, ma'am.
Pardon?
Jewelries.
That's
Jewelry.
it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's it with the jewelry thing, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, I think this is how we get into the film, what I'm doing right now. This is where I derive from. I can't, there are a lot of, I made like more than 2,000 sketches, but I'm not in a position to show anything right now because it's under process. I mean, it's under production. I can't show you anything. It will come somewhere next year. So, I just had I wanted the students to understand from where I derive my inspirations. And also, when I traveled to Srirangpatna and Mysore to get all these things, there were photographs of the paintings and sculptures on the walls, which is clearly of that period, that I have used for embroidery on these particular dresses. I've used them. And majorly, like if you see, there are a lot of designers who are inspired by the carvings on Taj Mahal. You see that combination, the white and the indigo blue and all that. No? That's basically from there. You know it when you look at it. It's the Mughal. They had their particular style, and most of it is derived. And very interesting kind of embroidery you can derive from that particular period, actually giving the flavors of that period indirectly. So what happens is, the colors in the costumes shouldn't work on the conscious level. It actually should work on the subconscious level. That's what I'm saying. It should just complement along with the story. It should never stand out, That's one thing. And now there is a lot of questions about, is it only period drama we're talking about, Shweta, you mentioned about the question yesterday, isn't it?
Yes.
That was, can you read out the question for me, please?
Yeah, sure. Before that, I'll just read out some questions which I have got right now.
Yes.
To the topic. So, which era are we talking about with this current picture that we're seeing? Which era is this? Are you showing in this movie? The new one which you're making, right?
1600.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the question here it is, what kind of literature is referred to while doing your research? And also, what is the course of action taken by the costume designer when she doesn't find enough information in history books or websites or resources? So what do you do?
See, that's where that's what I said you will have to understand in detail similar periods at that time.
Yeah.
See, Mohenjo-daro don't have so much of, I mentioned about, don't have so much of resources about that civilization, the kind of textiles used, not much in detail. But then we could probably understand how the kind of culture that was there at that period, and the kind of fabrics that might have existed at that time, and the kind of dyes that must have existed at the time, to understand what colors might go in. Not that we have a wide palette there, but yes, a few things which was then at that time, So we should use all that knowledge. For that, we need to strive. See, end of the day, what the story is speaking about, we need to understand that, and based on that, we need to get into our research. So there is no hard and fast rule. This should be this. This should be no. We are talking about a 1600 period. You can derive designs from anywhere in this country. Because see, for a king and a queen, they might be getting all these gifts from various parts of the world. Like there is I didn't want to show the picture here. There is a picture of Tipu Sultan with a completely fur coat, fur. And today we'll be surprised to see Bangalore and with fur and all that. Today Bangalore itself is cold. That whole thought just occurred to me. What would have happened 600 years back?
Oh yeah.
So, there's no hard and fast rule. We could actually refer to various other things, where we can actually see if Padmavat, if you see the Aurangzeb's character, Ranveer Singh's character, he's using a lot of fur. I think that there are a lot of pictures that shows during that period, usage of these materials there. Generally, we don't see that in history where they're wearing fur and all that. But yes, there are real pictures of Tipu Sultan, the paintings of Tipu Sultan wearing a fur coat. So it depends on, when you want to interpret or when you want to tell your story, and when you need to know in depth about the period you're talking about, the usage of fabrics, like I mentioned. So we need to do it. So there's no particular, thing or scriptures. It depends. So today, if I'm talking about 1600 AD, tomorrow I'm talking about, if you're talking a film on Ambedkar, it's near the time of independence and 45. That 47. That itself is period. So the next one of the directorial ventures, what I am doing in the coming future, it is about a warrior queen from Kerala. She's called Unniyarcha. And we are talking about, again, during the time of Tipu Sultan, and this story has never been told. So again, there is, a little, the kind of costumes people use in Kerala is completely different what was used here. But still, there were certain similarities. That is again a very interesting thing. What I'll be doing like very soon. Once I finish my next one is called Two Stroke. After that, I'll be doing this film. So that is again a very, very different thing. And there is another film what we are working on. It's during the World War I.
Okay.
Yeah, that is also a period. Need not be from king's kind. So even 5 years back from now is also period.
Correct.
So that's the thing. So what are the other questions, Shweta?
Okay, so this is an interesting one. Do you face any issues such as design leaks before the release of the movie? Has it ever happened? Do you ever face design leaks before the release of the movie?
Yeah, these things happen there. These things sometimes what happens is like, it's not, people don't understand the value of effort, somebody else's effort. The problem is they come into the locations, they click pictures, and just a click away, they are not emotionally connected to that. And it's very sad for people to react that way in a very irresponsible behavior, where so much, everybody is working hard to bring something new to the audience. Even a smallest of smallest thing is so important, and everybody would have worked so hard on it. Somebody comes with a mobile phone with the facility of a photo, clicks it in. What is it they're going to gain? Nothing. It's just because majorly people are living in this so-called virtual world and living on likes and on, I don't understand why, but then these virtual likes and virtual all these things is getting you nowhere. It's just that it's just virtual. It's useless. Only thing is maybe probably people will know you.
Exactly.
But knowing you, see, that's the whole thing, Becoming a designer and becoming famous is very easy today with this kind of media reach, But remaining a designer and remaining famous, for that definitely you need to have your skills in place. You should be updated. You should be upgrading. Whatever, you should have the urge for learning every day. It's, again, there is learning. There are two kinds of learning, okay? So the learning is like either you learn because you want to learn. There is so much, okay, I don't know this, I want to learn. That is one kind of learning. The second kind of learning, I am sitting among 10 people and I shouldn't look like a fool. I should be in a position to argue. This is another kind of learning. So there are two ways why people really want to learn. So what happens is, the other side of people, they learn and they will restrict their learning only till death, just to serve that purpose. But other learning, they go deeper and deeper, they're never satisfied. I've seen this in students also, you know. I've seen this, I'm talking in terms of when I visit certain colleges, I've seen this in students just for the sake of arguing, just to understand that, okay, I am somebody. The learning is for that, but that will not take anywhere, you know, that really won't take anywhere. The whole thing was like, what I really want to know, and what is it that, you know, I can learn so that I can contribute. So that is a very, I find that, you know, I think it is very important to understand that basically what I want. Then it is better. See, like last conversation we had, Miss Maria, right, in the webinar.
Yeah, yeah.
He mentioned there's a whole lot of things about like how to do, but the lacking is what to do. That lacking what to do, you know, how to do, you can study in any colleges. I can see here some questions that's coming up. Is there a particular course to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing that certain questions coming up, you know. So, you know, the colleges can offer you how to do. But what to do is your signature. You have to find, there's no other substitute for it. There is nobody who can teach you that. It's one's individuality, and that is very important. And that's the only thing that's going to take you places. Nothing else. No matter where you studied from, no matter you know, how influenced you are, no matter you come in whose recommendation, nothing works. Only thing that works is how to do, you manage. That's the development of your style, your art, your signature. So I mean, it is like that, and nothing can teach you that. You have to, we have to, and that comes with passion. That does not come because if I've coming into with a mindset, okay, I'm going to get this job. I am going to. If you treat your you know, your job as just a job, you'll end up doing just a job.
Exactly.
But when you really think about it as your passion and something that you really want to do, then you end up being somewhere. That's the reason you see exceptions, you know, because it's all the perspectives, the way they look at it. So, you know, when I hear this, you know, is there a course to do? There's no separate course to do anything like this. It's just understanding. So, as we mentioned, how to do, you can learn anywhere. Any of these courses offer you that. But what to do, find yourself. Yeah.
How do you research in case of movies about future?
Pardon?
So, like we have been listening about the historical movies. What do
Yeah.
you do in your research when the movie is about future?
About future.
Yeah.
So future becomes a lot of friction, you know, like if you've seen the movie Matrix. So it was about a total friction. It's like something that could happen. That might be an inspiration to a lot of people who are actually doing it. Like, you know, if you see the SpaceX, now the capsule which went, the kind of dresses they were wearing, it was actually designed by a Hollywood designer.
Okay.
Okay, so you know, somewhere they would have shown this in some you know, some movies like Star Trek or something like that. But then later on, this becomes an inspiration to a lot of people to understand. Like, you know, if you see time travel, there are a lot of scientists who are thinking on those bases. There was a time when people thought about cell phones which were shown in cinema, but today it become a reality.
Yes.
So these are all frictions, you know, frictions which, so that there you apply your imagination again, you know, what might be at that time, what
Exactly.
might that character do, what are the, you know, skills that character might have. Again, it depends on your visualization, your understanding of the character, and being in the character shows, trying to show how the character might be.
True.
Yeah.
Is there enough freedom to express your creativity in filmmaking, or you are under pressure of the?
See, you know, there is freedom. Definitely, there is freedom. You know, there is freedom. But you know, what happens is like, you know, I told you, we are dealing with so many creative minds. Like there is an art director, there is cinematographer, there is scriptwriter, there is director. Everybody would have their visual. So what happens is when you are, you know, there is a difference when you are reading. That's what I said in the initial, when we were talking. The actual work of the designer comes in when you are reading the script. So visually, when you are offered something, you are already fed with, okay, this is what we want. But when you are reading, see, if you read Devdas, okay, let's talk about this Devdas. You would have read Devdas, 100 others would have Devdas. So, you know, when you are reading, you have your own visuals, you know, that is coming in. When you read, you will have yours, I will have mine, 100 others will have 100 other visuals. So how differently are you? I mean, it's very different when you read, but visually, if you're watching Devdas movie, you are actually fed with everything there.
Exactly.
So that thing happens when you're actually reading the script, your individuality, the difference between, the same script is given to me and to another designer. So this whole thing develops, the whole styles and interpretation develops, and each one has got their own interpretations. So this is where the reading brings in, developing your imagination. And for that, you need to do a lot of, basically it's just connected to your society, to your surroundings, to nature. The minute you lose connect, your rhythm is gone. Then you only end up doing copying, then you call it inspired and all that. But for sure it is just take away from or rip off. Yeah.
There's another interesting question. What will happen to the costumes after the movie?
It will be in the producer's go down.
Okay.
Sometimes see some things like, expensive things. Like I've heard that Karan Johar, he has all his costumes. There's a huge place made and all that. Generally what happens is it's given to the costume designer hands over. How it happens is once the costume is made, we actually do the trial, and we place these on one frame if there are 4 characters on the frame. So we plan and see what complements each other and the background, and then we put the scene numbers on it and we send it along with the jewelry and the entire assemble, and then it is gone. It's theirs, and what happens there generally, it will be with the producers. That's what happens. And if it's really expensive and it can be reused, sometimes small alteration can be made, and not everywhere we can reuse it, but yes, we can reuse it. Yeah.
Has the pandemic impacted the costume designing industry also?
Pardon?
Has this COVID-19 affected the costume designing industry also?
I think this is the industry which is worst affected, because we work more than 50-60 people. They've given a role that less than 60 people should work in the thing. That never happens at all.
Right.
And with the end product, the cinema, no theaters are open. I don't know when it is going to open. If at all it opens, we don't know whether people will go out and watch, because it's a crowded place. It's all about
Right.
masses. Cinema is all about mass. So we are the worst affected.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Now there is, we were talking about the period drama.
Yeah.
Now let us go into the contemporary wear, like there are cinemas which is made like, today's kind of a thing. So I worked in this film called Charulata, where it was a Kannada film which is made in all 4 languages, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, where Priyamani acted. And she was acting as a Siamese twins. Why I took this one, there are many films which I have taken, but this one had a particular thing what I needed to mention. If you look at the costumes, Sumuga, can we go at the Charulata's costumes, please?
Yes, ma'am. Charulata. Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
can you go back from the first one? Go back from the first, please.
This is the first one.
This is the first one. Okay. Okay, let's go back to the first one. Yeah. So if you look at the costumes, it is a very simple costume. It's a simple today, everyday wear kind of a costumes here. Here, why I'm showing this thing is, can we go into the second one also?
Yes. And here with the children. The third
Yeah,
one.
even see, if you zoom in, that small kids were sitting there, from their childhood up to, if you look at the costume, zoom in a little bit, Sumukha.
Srimukha, ma'am.
Not this one, the previous one. I mean, the next one. Next one. Yeah, okay. The next one. The next photograph, please. Yeah, zoom in this one also. Where the costumes are attached, no?
Here it is attached, ma'am.
Yeah. Just can you zoom in there? Yeah, if you see this costume, it's a very, very simple skirt and a top, where, there's nothing much about it. The characters also were so, except that they're Siamese. My biggest, why I'm showing you this thing was, I had a very specific description. That is, the description was, these actors should be joined all the time, because they might lose on the body language of being a Siamese if they are just attached. I could have just attached a Velcro there and made it look together, but the director said no, because what is happening is, you see two people there. How this is shot? It is actually shot using chroma. There, one actor is Priya, the other actor is a body double. Okay, the face becomes, you have a green mat put on, a green mask put on the face, and you finish that. It was a very difficult film to shoot for us, because each shot has to be taken 4 times. Each same action has to be taken 4 times. So if it is the character A and character B, character A, if it is Priya, character B would be a body double. Then they will have to, when the character B is reacting, then the character A becomes a body double and character B becomes Priya. So when you're doing like this, the same costume we needed 4 of the same kind of costumes. And the worst thing was, the director wanted their body to be close all the time. So one option we had was stitching these two together and make them wear together. We couldn't do that, because the actors had to go in and change. After a point, we need, they can't, after every shot, they can't be sticking on together. It was very hot and all that. So they need to go separate. And how are we going to do that? It couldn't be just on the outfit level, They wanted their bodies itself together, so that, that's how the body movements, everything will change, I had to crack my brains till the day of shoot. I didn't know how to do it. I tried stitching the costume together. I tried, nothing was working out. And anyway, the day began, we had all the 4 outfits. We didn't know. Just half an hour before that, something struck. And, I called for the waist, you have the waist belts they use for back pains and all, right? I called in for the waist belts, had both of them have them. And then this waist, one of their waist belts were buckled into the others. And I made a slit of 1 inch on both the dresses and inserted it through. So even after the shoot, they could just remove that and be separate. Their bodies also are double. Their bodies also are stuck together, as well as the outfits didn't look. It was a simple thing, but it took me, I don't know, it just didn't occur to me. There are so many, there is, how we are going to use the outfits also is very important, and the convenience of the actors is very important. So it's not just what you see on screen, also how the actors are comfortable doing it, or how we are giving them the maximum comfort level, because it emotes, it shows on the screen. If they're uncomfortable, it shows on screen. So how do we do it? So that's the reason I added this thing. It may look very, very simple, but till the day of shoot in the morning, I couldn't get it, how am I going to achieve this? I just couldn't do it. But then somehow it became a very easy thing later on. Just remove the buckle and both are separate, and when you need it. And it is just 1 inch slit on each outfit, But to get that, it took me a while to understand. So, this was one thing. And, yesterday's one question was there. What was the question, Shweta, we were talking about?
I'll just check which one. There's so many.
The contemporary, why is it styling and designing and something like that? One question was there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can't we just style or buy it from brands? And
Yes.
what was that question? Can you?
Why do we have to? Why can't we use the branded clothes instead of designing the new set of clothes for any movie?
Correct. See here, why I'm placing this question here is this entire thing I didn't design as such. I only styled them. So the skirt was bought, only the top. The top was stitched according to that, And we can use. See, it depends on the requirement I mentioned earlier also. It is not necessary you have to stitch it or design it, nothing. So today, if you have a character who's a super rich guy and who loves brands, and then obviously if you have to use a Louis Vuitton, you need to have a Louis Vuitton there. Or if you want to show that particular brand of shoes he likes, it all depends on what the character is. We generally have this thing. So we have some actors who, the character might be a village boy, but then some people ask for some kind of a diesel shirt and all that. So we have this kind of argument all the time, and I always tell them, see, look, when I design for you, okay, we'll buy you a diesel, but now it is for the character, I will definitely not buy you a diesel. So you'll have to wear something that goes.
Yeah.
So
Right.
this conversation always happens, you know, this thing is always there. So you'll have to keep in mind. And one thing is, you should be firm in what you believe in. I think that is one thing, you know, when you have to say a no, you have to say a no. So that's the thing. So, you know, and can we now, any more questions, Shweta, on regarding this thing, what we talked so far?
So I think I'll take up the questions in the end after we finish the color palette.
After the thing, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, right, nothing with regarding to what we spoke so far, right?
No. So there are some general questions. So if you want to take your
Yeah, we'll take it later then.
Yeah.
Let me finish now. Let us
Yes,
get into the color schemes. You know how colors are used. Now we talked about how we derive the design, how we derive it. You know, all these things we kind of. I hope everybody understood whatever I'm talking. I hope so. And let's talk like how we use colors. How we use colors to render an emotion. Okay. So now, what happens generally? There will be a color palette fixed. You know, there will be a certain color palette fixed depending on the mode of the film. So again, the mode of the some, you know, as you talked, there's genres. You know, there is romantic films, there is, you know, horror films, there is action films. So these are the genres. Based on the genres and the mood of the film, the whole film itself will have a mood, like Matrix. Matrix has a whole mood, like, you know, it is more futuristic. And the color of the film, if you see, it is green. It is the, you know, the saturation or the hue of this color green. Or if you see, you know, Life of Pi, it's more of warm tones. You know, the entire film, if you see, the palette itself is completely warm. Depending on the story and the emotion of the whole film, there is a palette, a basic outline or the palette that is already fixed. Sumukha, can we go into that palette thing? You know, not the Joker, the other ones.
Video, ma'am?
Yeah, you can play the video. Yes, we can play the video and then we'll talk. Yeah.
Okay.
Would you be able to sleep in a room painted bright red? Might be hard, right?
I'm on no sleep. No sleep. You don't know what it's like in there.
Colors
Is the audio
elicit
okay?
emotions
Audio
and have a
doesn't sound okay.
psychological effect on people. So unless you're shooting in black and white, in which case definitely review our video on tone, this is the video for you. Because today, we're going to show you how colors can be used to create mood. But you can go beyond placing a blue tint over an entire sequence. You can determine specifically what type of blue you want. There are three factors in determining color. They are hue, which is the color itself, saturation, the intensity of the color, and brightness, how light or dark the color is. With just hue, saturation, and brightness, HSB for short, you can create a complex color scheme rather simply, and go from being just another director to being a true visual artist. First up, hue. Some movies choose an affinity of hue, utilizing a monochromatic color scheme. Those are just fancy ways of saying that a movie is mostly one color, or neighboring colors on a color wheel, also known as analogous colors. The Matrix is a classic example of a movie that mostly uses one color. That color? Green. Why? Well, the movie takes place inside of a digital matrix, and we associate green with code. Plus, the green in the Matrix has a certain sickly quality to it, reflecting the overall state of affairs in that world.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
Next up is the S in HSB, saturation. This movie used a post-production process called bleach bypass, which has a deeply desaturating effect. The color is drained out of these images. It gives the world of the movie a cold, raw, gritty sort of look. It also becomes reminiscent of the faded photographs, the black and white newsreels of the period itself. It takes us back in time. The final of the three is brightness. Earlier in this series, we covered brightness in terms of a film's overall tone, but brightness can be used to affect individual colors as well. Sometimes a movie elects to use entirely bright colors, particularly movies from the Technicolor era. Back then, bright, vivid colors were a reason to see the movies alone. On the other hand, during darker scenes like this, you could almost forget that this movie was shot in color. Now let's see what it's like when one movie does both.
When the destiny of a great fortune is at stake, Men's greed spreads like a poison in the bloodstream.
It's using all darker colors. Contrast that with this scene, where all the colors are bright. In both instances, every element you see was chosen for its darker color or lighter color to create a contrast within the film. Wow. So by utilizing hue, saturation, and brightness, you can precisely identify the right colors to create certain feelings in your audience. Bright images often seem lively and exciting. Darker images often seem dramatic, and on it goes. But rules were made to be broken.
I don't make the rules. Okay, I'll make it as easy for you as I can.
You get to decide what the colors mean. It's your movie, it's your world, and so make it your color palette. How do you make a violent red, the color of blood, feel like something else? In Her, Spike Jonze uses red to connote love. He does it by associating the color with the lead, Theodore, as he searches for love and ultimately finds it in his operating system.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh,
Black is for bad guys like Darth Vader, right? Well, sure, until it's for Batman.
I'm Batman.
You get to make your own rules. Look at how Wes Anderson uses saturated colors to make otherwise mundane scenes about a family pop almost like a comic book, while actual comic book films ground their high-concept plots in gritty, realistic tones. With the wealth of options post-production now provides, it's easier than ever to control the color palette. Of course, color grading can be an expensive, lengthy process, and it rarely can make up for a project that lacked a thoughtful color design strategy in pre-production. Want to dive deeper? Check the link to grab our free film color theory
ma'am.
ebook.
I think,
More examples
So
of
I think that's good enough. Like we're talking about colors. So you would have seen now, how each cinema, based on like what I mentioned earlier, based on the mode of the film, you'd have seen how the directors use certain colors. So once inside the frame, if you've seen, you have a certain palette depending either it is a whole film or else it is scene wise. Sumukha, can you just go into the pictures of Joker, please? The photographs, the slide. Let us go into the slides, the photographs, yes.
which photographs, ma'am?
Yeah, the photographs on palettes, I have given the photographs of palette, isn't it? These are Jokers,
Yeah.
not the one, the previous one. There are others also, no? Other than the Joker, there are other ones, right? Yeah. See here, if you zoom in, if you see the film here, the palette of the film entire, you can see every color. See whether it is a costume. See the actor's costume, the lead actress costume. You can see the colors already here, and including the background. So how each palette, the colors in each palette is used in one particular frame. So this is one thing, and all this is inputs to us when we are actually developing the costume. So we get a color palette, we work on a color palette. Everything is worked between the cameraman, the art director, the costume designer. So these four major departments sit together, and we decide on the color palette of the. Majorly, the say is of the cameraman, because the DOP is the one who decides on the kind of the mode, because he's the one who render it on the camera. So we get to see something like this. Can we go to the next picture, please? Yeah, look at this. These are examples. You look at the green, just a line on the bus, which is behind, and the color of a coat, including the color of a lipstick. So even that, you can see it actually. Everything that comes in the frame comes in association with the color palette itself. See if you can see the dark brown at the corner there, and you can see the floor color, which is to the color which is there in a kind of a light beige. So this is how we work out. Can you go to the next picture, please? Yeah. So look at that in detail. Every color which is on the palette is incorporated into the frame. See, look at the purples, the different how the green is placed, the combinations, everything. So you can see the entire palette. Okay. So now how this happens is, either the entire film, if you see Matrix, the entire film is based on the brightness and the shades and the hue of green, like HSPV saturation, sorry, the hue, the saturation, and the brightness of one color green. The entire film was based on that. And now, if you have get into the Joker, just Sumukha, can we go into the Joker pictures, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, just yeah. See now, see now, this is Joker picture. The movie, what critically and theatrically acclaimed the movie Joker, the last year's film. Here, each scene-wise, they worked on a palette, depending on the mood, what they want to show about the actor. See, if you see the first picture, look at it like, how he is, and the second picture, depending on the mood of that particular actor, you can see the red color on his lips, the white on his face, the violets on his jackets. The same thing on the other photo, where he's, where there's a little sober down. He's looking at we're looking at a lot of greens, browns, the skin color. Everything is going according to the thing. Can we go to the next picture of the Joker again, please? There's one more picture, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Look at this. Look at these colors. You have green. You won't see green as such. You can see how it's easily blended. It's very nicely blended. Nothing looks off space. Nothing looks. The costume is not looking. Not outstanding, or any of the colors, nor the makeup. It's all blending. It's just going so air, and that is what is the best example of best example of the right balance of costumes, art, and colors, and also the cinematography. So this is, and one thing we need to understand as a designer, when you choose colors, the colors react differently in every light. The red will look almost brown in a yellow light. So it looks different in a blue light. So the kind of lighting that can use, the kind of colors, the tint of the film, whether it is a warm tone or a cool tone and all these things. Depending on that, we need to choose colors also, because the colors again react to these lights. So if you have something in mind, you should work it on a reverse order, whether if you want red to look red, what are you going to do to achieve it under these particular lights? So you will be given all the inputs on how to do it, and these are the things we're going to use, these are the palettes we'll be using, these are the lights we'll be using, this is the background color. Everything will be given to you, and it depends on you how well you can blend your costume along with this. Yeah, I think, thank you, Sumukha. I think that's it.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Okay. So, Roshini, let's take up some more questions.
Yes, Shweta.
Okay, so how many days do you take to design the costumes of one movie?
It depends, again, the time given, the more the time, the happier I am. But generally, we don't have the privilege. Generally, very, very little time is given. But for films like Madhukari Naika, I do have a lot of time. I have a lot of time. Time is given, and people understand Rockline Productions. Mr. Rockline is one person whom I admire a lot, because as a producer, he understands every department in depth. So, so he gives us a lot of time to get and the director also, Rajendra Singh, Sir Rajendra Singh Babu sir. He's also too good. And the great team. It depends. Generally, it's not. I told you, there is no hard and fast rule. It depends on, yeah.
Could you elaborate on the process of doing test shoots to the final part of actually capturing the scene?
Pardon?
Could you elaborate on the process of doing test shoots before the is captured for any scene?
Test shoots as such, what happens is, like, when we finalize on this, the first whole thing happens on the paper. You do the sketches, and when the sketches are approved, maybe the style and everything is being approved, then we have the actual garment. Once the actual garment is done, we call in the cinematographer, director, and the actor, and have a trial with regard to the fitting and all that. Once the fitting is done and the corrections have been made, then along with the cinematographer, director, and assistant directors, we actually work on the scene. See, on one particular scene, if there are 4 characters, we work on a balance, the contrast colors and how to see, depending whether it is day or night. The scene is in the day or in the night, depending it's a happy mood or a sad mood. What is the emotion that is coming, so humor or something. Based on that, based on all these things, we segregate the outfits. These are the outfits for this, and then the scene numbers have been written and just sent off. So, the test shoot, in the sense, there wouldn't be a test shoot as such. Generally,
Okay.
What we do is we try and see on a photo shoot, and we try and see, the lighting and everything will be seen. So there won't be a trial shoot and all that will not be there.
Okay. Okay, so there's this question by Miranda. Is there an association of film costume designers here in Bangalore? And is it mandatory to be the member of this film association to do costume designing?
See, yes, it was there. There is an association here where you need to be a member. But nowadays, it's not so required also. I wouldn't be. It's debatable if I say that, but
Yeah.
yeah. But then you still can work even without being a member.
Okay.
So I am. When
Yeah,
I
yeah.
started, there were no designers.
Ah.
Yeah, when I started in 2001, there were people who asked me, we have costumers, so what is your job? So at that time, people have come and stopped the shoot. We were shooting for this film called Nammanna of Sudeep's. And there was a whole set of people who came and told me, stop the shoot. There is somebody who was working without the union thing. They came and then the producer involved and they put up this thing and all that. There was problems, the not being part of the union and all that. But then it's in a way good to be part of union where in case some issues come up, there is somebody to intervene and talk. And yeah, you can be or you cannot be. I mean, it's okay. It's fine nowadays.
Okay, so you have shifted like from the fashion designing to costume designing. How has been your journey, and what extra have you learned in this journey?
Fashion to costume, honestly, let me tell you, fashion I've done only during my college days. And right from beginning, and I tried being a merchandiser in one of the companies, and I thought this is not for me. Probably, I couldn't make this, and I would be, because see, what happens is when I know myself, I get bored very fast. I really get bored very fast. Let me be honest. So here it is like every day it's a different challenge. It's even if it's the same actor, the character what they're showing is totally different. So I'm not designing for one person. I'm actually designing to many characters.
Correct.
So here it keeps me going. It challenges me every now and then. Yeah. So I would say I wouldn't say I was much into fashion. Right from the beginning, I was more into. Probably I will get into fashion. There's some things that's going on. So probably, yeah.
Okay, so do you like in costume designing? Do you still go with the traditional illustrations method, or you have taken up digital illustrations?
No, I prefer hand illustrations because that's more easier for me. And easier when you're sitting with an actor or when you're explaining it to the director. You have a strength in that. Immediately you can sketch it. You can show, okay, this is not something like this, and this we could do. It's very easy when you're sitting with somebody and when you are able to convince.
Yes.
So I would still prefer this hand illustrations. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a big question. When one is designing costumes, does one follow colors as per the season and trends of current times, or how it goes? Should it appeal to the audience, or does one select colors as per the role and character? How does one strike this balance?
We have to strike a balance. Definitely, we have to strike a balance because you can see again. It depends on the requirement of the film. The basic underlying thing is the character of the film. There is no compromise on that. Keeping that in mind and keeping that as a basic info, we need to develop on that. We can go a little bit. See, there is always a creative liberty. Nobody will stop you from a lot of things, and that is very important. Unnecessary cost also goes in, for no reason end up buying
Exactly. Yeah.
you end up buying some very expensive brands, and which is not needed sometimes. You can work out cheaper things also. There is a budget restriction. We have to work on a budget, and we should also think on the producer. It's not about how expensive thing I use. It's nothing about it. There's no ego about that. We should also think about the producer who is investing a whole lot of money. I'm talking because I'm also a producer. I produced my first film, so I know how it is for him or her to, the kind of money, and we have no surety on whether we're going to get back the kind of money. Or I think every technicians are responsible for, the opportunity given as well as the money that is invested in.
All right. So sorry, there's a lot of things happening.
No problem at all. Yeah.
Okay, so I had this question. Yeah, okay. So in a single song, at times, like many a times, we've seen that two costumes are changed by the actors.
Yeah.
So what all is kept in mind while doing this?
See, it's basically again the locations, when in a song where you're talking, it depends on the locations. And, I wouldn't want to see the whole song with one costume. It is so
Yeah,
monotonous, so
exactly.
boring. Except the song requires something like that, then, you needed the song in Kalarali Wagi with one costume throughout this song. And
Exactly.
there were songs where we've used multiple costumes also. As and when the surrounding changes, the background changes, you need to definitely change so that to give, it's all about the feeling good thing. Songs is all about the feeling good.
Yeah.
That's why we need to, and as you say, costume also interpret the mood. So we change it.
Okay. So at times we have seen, in fact, many a times, of course, that the jewelry or the costume which the actors wear become the very, very popular. It becomes a
Yeah,
trend.
yeah,
Like the nose pin of Kashi Bai in Bajirao,
yes,
or the
yes,
cool chain of Shah Rukh Khan in Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. So
yes.
you have certain thing in mind, so things get famous, or it just happen with the
See,
trend.
I'll tell you some things we do it according. See, like Kashiba's nose ring. It's actually like how Marathas used to wear that. That's nothing different. But when somebody wears it, it's a certain appeal that creates among the general public, and suddenly they say, wow, this is nice, maybe I'll want to have. So one person buys it, two-person buys it. At the end of the day, it end up being a trend. You end up doing costumes for not becoming a trend or something. We don't know. If it happens, it's good and we are happy. But generally, we do it to bring out the difference in the character. Like if you see that Shah Rukh Khan's character is a cool boy in the first half of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, and later on, it was very important to show him as a cool. Maybe these are small accessories that actually bring in or contributed to that particular character. Yeah.
Okay, so Manish Malhotra has
Mm.
conquered both the worlds of fashion, as well as costume designing and fashion
Right.
designing.
Right.
So, is it purely because of his strong Bollywood connections that he's able to do this, or how to traverse between both the paths?
I told you very clearly, no matter how much connections you have, until and unless you are good in your skills, you cannot survive. People will not tolerate you. Cinema welcomes everybody with warm hands. It's work for everybody. But if you're not good enough, or if you're not able to keep up to the standards, or if you're not able to continuously upgrade yourselves, cinema will easily throw you out. It's not about anybody or one person or some. That's the industry. That's how it is. So everybody, if you're working, see, it's when you're in cinema, it's more like it's like a pressure cooker. You're working, you're dealing with like 250 to 270 people in the locations. You are even from a light boy to somebody who helps you with the coffee, tea. They are human beings, and we are talking about interpersonal skills. One side is that how you behave. Second side is your technicalities. How good are you, and how
Exactly.
well can you contribute to the cinema. Somebody who cannot contribute to cinema is not appreciated or tolerated in cinema.
True.
So it's simple as that. No matter what you do, what you have, you can claim about all these things. 1, 2, 3. After that, you are not there. Why should somebody, when you're investing money on something, see, this is a requirement. It's specifically this requirement in cinema. If you're not able to cater to that requirement, I mean, if you buy a brand, you thinking, okay, you buy a yoga pants, and the yoga pants get torn every now and then. Will you go for the same brand? Definitely no. So that's the same thing, with the technicians also.
Yeah.
When I'm called in for a job and I'm not able to deliver it, they will not call you. Why would they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you see future possibility of costume industry taking a sustainable route to go towards sustainability?
It's always sustainable. Cinema and entertainment was always there. See, it's not just cinema. I told you, there is theaters, there is television series, Netflix series. The medium changes, but then for a creator, there is space always. Whether it is a large screen, whether it is in a small format, whether it is on television, whether it is on ads, there is a whole lot of avenues where people can work in. So it is always sustainable. Entertainment is a part of I think amid COVID, the only thing that people kept that kept people sane was entertainment. The kind of movies, I think Amazon and Netflix would have made a lot of money.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. In cinema, who has more priority, fashion designer or costume designer? I think this is well understandable.
Yeah, so this I had mentioned earlier, the
Yeah.
basics of both remains the same. It's the perspective that is different and the understanding of, a virtual character. The character is not there in real, but you are actually reading it and you are developing that. And from that literature to the real, it is your journey, how you bring that
Yeah.
out. So there is nothing like, basically, if you know to construct a garment, you can understand that particular character. What you do in real life, you do it in real.
True. Okay, Roshni.
Yeah.
So my last question, it's actually a set of questions I've compiled together. I think
Ah,
students, so they want to know how a fashion designer should go into costume designing, then how a common person get contacts from for costume designing into movies, and how to begin, how beginners, start with, and how my CV should look different for costume designing jobs and all that. Can you just sum
pardon,
up?
I didn't get it. You're breaking up, Shweta, actually.
Okay. I'll just repeat myself. So
Yeah.
I have compiled all the questions who have
Ah,
budding, aspiring costume designers. So the
right.
question is, how should their CV be different, for a fashion designing job and a costume designing job? How
What is different? What should be different?
the CV for the job.
CV. CV.
Yeah, resume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what should be expected from a beginner, how a common student enter into costume designing for theater, and likewise questions with all the questions
Yeah.
in mind
And
for the.
about the CV, I really don't know. I am not part of a corporate kind of a presentation, and I'm never into that. I don't understand that also.
Okay.
And, I don't understand. I think I'm laid back there. I'm still there, like where I began when it comes to CV and all these things. And, when it comes to, your profile, or first thing is to understand what you want to do first, whether you want to do in theaters, whether you want to do in cinema, or whether you want to follow fashion. It's understanding of one's need, so that, when you understand your passion, is the longer you go, the you you have a long run when you understand and then you follow your passion. Once you follow your passion, that is when you understand what you want to do, how to do becomes easier. So when you understand, okay, this is what I want to do, and ideally, then you will start finding your connections. You'll start talking to people, meet people, maybe randomly send your messages or things like that. End up meeting, you will end up having your contacts. So first, the problem whole lies in you can't decide on what you want to do. And with clarity, and with great conviction, that is somewhere I know I see lacking. Okay, ho gaya to ho gaya, otherwise okay, no problem. Okay, if it comes to me easy, then fine, otherwise it's okay, I'll see what.
Yeah,
That's not
right.
the thing. If you really and deeply want it, you will get it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
And I told you, it's not like a 9 to 5 job where you end up,
yeah.
and it's nothing to do with all the award functions we get to see, and all the glitz and glamour, after party, cocktail party. I know a lot of people get attracted to this industry,
Attracted.
thinking then, I'll be part of Limelight and all that. And Limelight, I want to make it very clear to everybody who's watching, Limelight is not something that is constant. Limelight keeps shifting, it's, what the actual meaning of Limelight, it keeps
Exactly.
shifting.
Mm.
So don't think that, I want to be, if that is the reason for being a costume designer, don't be. So, because I want to be famous, because I want to be, so becoming famous, like I said, is very easy, but remaining famous is very, very difficult. So, for that, it's not something that has to be pursued, fame and money and all these. It's not I think the persuasion should come for the passion of understanding your skills and probably bringing in a difference in them. So I think that should be the basic passion. The rest of it follows. It's not something, that's not the primary thing. So if this comes in, the core quality just comes in, and then I think the rest of it follows.
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
designing is a complete different world. I mean, it was a terrific session, Roshni. I myself learned so much from this. I mean, I think even I did not know a lot of things which you explained to me. I'm sure our students would have had a lot to learn and take away.
I'm glad. I'm really glad that something I could contribute, because, I feel very sad, because students who spend 3 to 4 years in institutions, they think, okay, they're going to come out and they're ready
Yes.
for it. But actually, because I felt as a student when I came out, I had my own fears, I had my own things, but then it's a journey we have to take. So it's either this, whether you want to go through it or you don't want to go through it. So if you want to go through it, it's like, you know, there will be all these challenges coming in. It's like you are in a sea, and you know you are in a sea, and expecting waves not to be there. So what you can do best, you know, you can't expect waves not to come and heavy waves and all that. It will be there. But what we need to do is have a proper boat which actually takes us and sails us through. So it's a matter, it's a perspective that's very different. So it's all this ground line is whether you want to do it or you don't want to do it.
True.
And nothing comes easy. There is a price to pay for everything. There are sacrifices made. There are sacrifices made. There were, like, when I was shooting for my film My Story, I had so many problems. We were shooting in Portugal. I had my small kids who were left in the boarding school. That was, they were in the second standard and the fourth standard. They were left in the boarding school. And the same year, my mother was diagnosed of cancer. I couldn't be with her. There were a lot of things on your personal front that shouldn't come. I wouldn't say, you know, somebody should not be affected. Yeah, you will be affected. But somewhere you're working on a certain deadline.
Roshini.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Roshini, there was a question asked by a few students on sustainability.
Okay.
The question is pertaining to, you said that almost all the garments which were developed for a movie, for example, one movie, for example, your Roshini Dinaker, you might have designed more than 1,000 garments.
More than 5,000 garments, sir.
You have planned for 1,000 garments.
More than 5,000 garments.
For 5,000 garments. Imagine, more than 5,000 garments. Imagine in Karnataka, about 200 movies are produced every year.
Yeah.
Then, if you multiply the number of garments, so many garments in the Indian film industry, so many garments we produce.
Yes.
In terms of sustainability, are you going to use a fabric or any method which will not affect the environment? Environment sustainability, I was asking.
So we haven't been thinking so much about the environment sustainability. Let me be very frank about it. We are, see, there are a lot of different fabrics used, the different dyes used. So we are looking at what is going to be seen on screen. Okay, I think that is some area we need to now think about. Like, you know, the kind of dyes we use and all. Like, you know, we have to be even more aware. We are, you know, what you mentioned, we have been talking about this thing, you know, where we should be a little more considerate about, because, see, we're not talking about a mass production. We are buying the existing fabrics, which is already there in the market mostly. And it's in a very rare cases is when you develop a fabric. So, you know, there's a lot of difference here. So we're not getting into...
Why they ask you?
Sir, I'm not able to hear you clearly, no? Isn't it, Shweta?
No. Yes. Why they have asked you this question? Can you hear me now?
I can
ask you this question?
Yeah.
Why they ask you this question? In every platform today, people are talking about sustainable fashion and circular fashion. That's why in the costume industry, whether the sustainable fashion has been brought in costume also.
See, you know, that's a very important point. You know, I think we should be a little more sensitive towards the place where we are staying in and responsible for what we are doing, which we are not. Let us be very honest, we are not. So, you know, and there are reasons also for it. We have a budget constraint, we have our time constraint, and the workplace in which we are working also affects, you know, we don't have time to develop an entire fabric. You know, we are not working that way. We're working on a very, very, very tight schedule where, you know, it takes a lot of research and R&D when you have to develop a fabric. So, you know, and the number of garments that's coming out, see, we buy it, see, I'll tell you, for Roshini Dinaker, I think buying, you know, I've used a lot of Cora material and colored them and, you know, and constructed into different fabrics, because that was the easily available fabric then.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. Shweta, if no more questions, you can. It is a very good session. Actually, first of all, I should thank Roshini for accepting my invitation.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
It's a great day for all those faculty members and the students of fashion
thank you so much.
designing. It's a highly learning session actually. Shweta, you can thank her.
Yes, sir. So, in fact, I would like to just add that I mean, she's such an inspiring person. So many accolades in the kitty, but still she's so down to earth. I mean, whatever I've been talking to her since last 1 week, but she's been very, very, very nice and
Thanks,
coordinated.
Shweta. Thank you so much.
So much, Roshni. And I was learning was, I mean, very, very serene to talk to you and learn so much. I hope our students and attendees all had lots to take. So we are fortunate to have you, Roshni, with us, and I hope we associate in future too for different
Definitely,
things.
Shweta. Thanks. I'm glad that the new generation is coming in. And one thing I'm very sad is, I was talking to Vijay Kumar sir the other day. Let's talk about the fashion institutes. Roughly, imagine the number of institutes. Every batch maybe like 45 to 50 people coming out from every batch. A number of institutions across the country, and the exposure we have to culture, to color, to textiles is it's not comparable to other countries, but still we are not able to create one brand like a Louis Vuitton or a Chanel
Exactly.
but the whole question remains why, and I think we need to probe into it, because if you want to see India grow in various segments, then I think we need to, I mean, it's not that we are not capable, we are, and then the question remains why. So this is something that we are talking, Vijay Kumar sir and we're talking, and I think the change has to happen from the college, from the way we are teaching our, the conditioning of minds, these young minds, So either telling them it's about working in some place, and the whole focus I somewhere is feeling, okay, you get a placement here, you get a placement. So the idea becomes just getting a placement. It is not contribution. You have so much to contribute. So I don't know why we are not supporting our students or putting in their minds about contributing something, to the industry, what has given you a lot. So I always feel I need to contribute. So this has given me a lot. It's given me a career. It's given me happiness. It's given me joy, and it's given me my moments and everything. But then I always think about how am I going to give back, and what is it that I can give back. So I think that is kind of lacking. It's only what I can get. So with a closed hand, you can't give nor take.
Exactly. True.
So I think we need to keep our hands open for it. So I think the students have to be taught, or maybe not. You can't teach anybody. You can actually, direct their, perspectives to thinking in a very different way from the existing education system about contribution, what they could do, and they could do great contributions. So I think they should start thinking in a very different way so that they can give back to what they received.
It's very, very well said. I think the only realization, it's the only thing which comes to the mind, and that they can achieve whatever they want to. Thank you so much, Roshni, for sparing your time.
Thank you so much, Shweta.
Thank you all the attendees, and hope to see you all again in the next session. That's on.
Sure, Shweta. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Roshni.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much.